Hey, 7th graders, Mr. Atwood, another one of your flip lessons. Today we're going to be talking about the early battles of the American Revolution. Again, this is not every battle, but some of the battles should be pretty self-explanatory. You're going to jot down the year, the victor, or who won the battle, and the impact. It's all going to be outlined on your notes. It's all going to be bold and underlined. All right? Should be easy peasy. Let's get going. Let me get out of here. There we go. All right, so Battle of Bunker Hill. The Battle of Bunker Hill is going to be kind of the first major, one of the first major battles, Britain versus the colonists on colonial soil. June 17, 1775. Britain is going to be the winner of this, but it's going to be a very important battle for American pride because the Americans actually fight very, very bravely during this battle. And the impact is going to show Britain that this war isn't going to be kind of quick and easy. Basically, the Battle of Bunker Hill takes place at Bunker and Breed's Hill. The Americans had taken up troops at the top of the hill. Britain had to come up the hill to kind of attack them. It took them 3 times to finally get the Americans off of these establishments, which, as you see, kind of overlook British Harbor, which is not good. They could put cannons up there and fire on British ships, so that's why Britain ran them out. And very famous, the leaders of the Americans kind of told the Americans to not shoot until they see the whites of the British eyes, meaning they let those British, as you can see in the picture, get as close as possible before they fired, and this was a lot of hand-to-hand physical combat. However, on the 3rd trip up the hill, the Americans have to evacuate and leave the hills, not because they were being overwhelmed by a better fighting force, but because they ran out of bullets. They lacked supplies, and they had to leave. And the Battle of Bunker Hill, again, is going to prove that the Americans were willing to fight and die for their cause. The Battle of Fort Ticonderoga, not really a battle, so to speak, because there wasn't really any British troops here. Remember, all the British troops in the colonies are located in Boston and Philadelphia, the cities. Ticonderoga is in the back country of New York, up near kind of Lake George area today. And basically, there was only 50 or so British soldiers at the fort. America is going to take the fort, and what's going to be important with this is, again, it's an American victory because they take the fort and they hold the fort, and it is in a key geographic location to be able to control the rivers. But it's going to provide much needed supplies, cannons that are going to be taken to Boston and going to be used to kind of what we're going to be talking about with issues around the city of Boston. And it's going to help stage future battles because it's going to give the colonies, remember, one of their weaknesses was not having a lot of supplies, and they're going to be provided with lots of supplies here. The Battle of Canada. For some reason, every time there was a battle in North America, French and Indian War, American Revolution, and War of 1812, the forces felt a need, American forces in particular, whoever America was fighting with, felt the need to invade Canada. They did so, and they found some successes on the way. They captured the city of Montreal. They won a couple of skirmishes near the Canadian border, but their momentum stopped, and there was a disastrous loss at Quebec City. Many hundreds of colonists were killed. Benedict Arnold, who was leading the troops, was severely injured and basically had to retreat, and they were kind of very, very lucky to get back alive because this was happening in November. So basically this told the Americans we're not going to really be fighting an offensive war. We're going to be on the defense. We're going to defend our land, defend our territory, and that's going to play into that patriotism mindset of we're going to defend our homes, we're going to defend our homeland, which in the long run is going to help America fight a longer war because they kind of know what they're fighting for. The Battle of Boston is kind of not really a battle, so to speak, but kind of it's kind of like it's almost like the game of Risk. There's troop movements involved. There's not a lot of skirmishing and a lot of firing, and it came real apparent to the Britain that it wasn't probably worth trying to keep this city, at least not yet. All of the British forces, as you can see, are kind of occupied into one small peninsula, and they are basically surrounded by George Washington's troops, which are going to number up to 16,000 soldiers. They get supplies and cannons from Fort Ticonderoga, and basically the Americans are holding the high ground. And General Howe and General Gage and their troops are going to realize that holding this probably isn't going to be worth it, or is not going to really happen. So they are going to evacuate to Canada, and they are going to start to look at how are we going to kind of invade the Americas. The big time for this is, again, big impact. British is going to evacuate or leave Boston, and this is going to be first time there was no troops in Boston, no British troops in Boston in the past 10 years. So the city of Boston had basically been occupied by British soldiers for 10 years. The Battle of New York is kind of an important battle because this is the first time that American soldiers are fighting British soldiers from Britain that have been trained. Mercenaries have been included in this as well. And to say things go badly for the Americans is an understatement. In August of 1776, Britain basically wipes the Americans off the map. It is a series of victories: the Battle of White Plains, the Battle of Manhattan, the Battle of New York. Britain almost captures Washington. It's not even close. In the British diaries and journal entries and things like that, they're talking about how the Americans had no idea what they were doing. Basically, America was fight a little bit, retreat. Fight a little bit, retreat. And basically, the whole war could have been won right here if the British did not let Washington successfully cross over into New Jersey and retreat. If they had captured Washington at this point, this would have been a huge loss for the Americans, and one that they probably wouldn't have been able to overcome, because at this point, really, the American fighting force is Washington and his troops. It is very demoralizing and basically shows that America could not fight a more traditional style of warfare. All right, that's our flip lesson for tonight. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure to send me a message on Schoology, or post your message onto the Schoology board, and maybe some of your classmates could help you out. All right, see you guys.